Welcome back into Clay and Buck. Lisa Boothe is with us now, the one and only Fox News political analyst, host of The Truth with Lisa Boothe in the Clay and Buck Podcast Network, doing fantastic numbers because so many of you are listening and want to hear her political insights. Ms. Lisa, always great to have you back on the show. How are you doing?
Hey, guys, I've missed you. It's great to be on.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, so we appreciate you making the time for us, especially in advance of this debate. Let's start with this. We'll get into some of your what do you think about the debate in a moment. What do
Okay.
you think of the campaign so far? Like, how is Trump doing in 2024 versus what you can compare it to in 2020? Although I know that was a crazy year for a lot of reasons.
Well, I think the challenge is, you can't really compare them, right? Think of what has happened in just in the past couple of months alone. We had an assassination attempt against Donald Trump, which the media tried to sweep under the rug, and obviously we're being lied to by the Secret Service and the FBI about what exactly happened. And then you had an entirely new Democrat ticket with Kamala Harris and then her selection of Tim Walz and Joe Biden stepping out of the race via X, even though somehow he's still the president of the United States, which is confusing. So I don't know if you can compare the two. We've never really had a truncated, general election like this before. So I don't think you can compare the two. I think he's trying to do the best he can on quicksand with sort of this changing environment. And tomorrow night's debate is obviously very important because of all that.
Lisa, do you ever just get frustrated with women for being idiots and how they're voting?
Oh, every day. Every day, Buck. It disturbs me and it hurts my heart that so many women in the country prioritize the ability to kill an unborn child over being able to put food on the table for their existing families or being safe in the streets or not having terrorists cross our southern borders. But unfortunately, we've arrived at this point where Democrats have made such a big issue out of reproductive freedom when it's not reproductive freedom. It's just the ability to murder an unborn child, essentially what they're advocating for. So, yeah, it makes me sad. And, I hope that we can try to continue to change hearts and minds as a country. But it's disturbing to me.
So if you were now advising Trump, and I don't want to overstate this, Lisa, but, this radio show is kind of big. Some people say huge. And there are some Trump people who listen to the show. So this might make its way to Trump, although you probably could just call him on your phone later. But what would you advise as key points for Trump to focus on tomorrow? And I just want to remind everybody, Lisa's work, not only does she do political analysis on Fox News, she's worked on campaigns in the past, stretching back for many, many years. So what do you think?
Well, I will say this, that Kamala Harris faces, she's losing men by a bigger margin than she's winning women in some states like Pennsylvania, Nevada, North Carolina. So there's a lot of focus on the female vote, but not her problems with men. Women do tend to turn out more than men, so that is an issue. I'm not going to downplay that. But for him, for the debate tomorrow, look, we know what her strategy is going to be. We saw it against Mike Pence. She's going to try to be inflammatory. She's going to call him a felon. She's going to call him a misogynist, sexist, all these different things. And so he just can't give her that soundbite. And what he needs to do, there was a CNN poll recently that found the majority of Americans look back positively on his agenda, that there is some Trump nostalgia with the way his administration used to be. And so he needs to remind voters why that is. The fact that, real wages were up, the fact that we weren't facing this kind of inflation, the southern border was under control, that we had stability and peace throughout the world and not the instability and chaos that we see now. So he needs to remind voters of what his administration stood for, what we can have again as a country. And again, she has said that her values haven't changed in that CNN interview. Bernie Sanders went on TV on Meet the Press this weekend and said that she's a progressive. She's just trying to moderate herself to win a general election. So Donald Trump needs to remind Americans what those policy positions are. The fact that she is to the left of Bernie Sanders. They should be in a commune together in Vermont, not her in the White House. This is a woman, as we know, decriminalizing southern borders or the southern border, Medicare for all. She compared ICE to the KKK. She said she was the last person in the room in the disastrous decision to get out of Afghanistan. So in the manner in which they did. So there's ample opportunity there for Donald Trump, but he just needs to, stick to the case and not let her get under his skin and just nail her to the cross in all these policy positions.
We're talking to Lisa Boothe, whose alma mater, the University of Tennessee, absolutely obliterated NC State over the weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. That was a big win. I'm a big Tennessee fan as well, Lisa. So if Trump wants to beat Kamala like Tennessee beat NC State, sorry, NC State fans out there listening, economy border crime is huge. You mentioned abortion and how many women are responding on that issue. I think the thing that Trump needs to do, and I'm curious how you would advise him if he were listening to respond to this, is say, look, Republicans have a variety of perspectives on how to respond to abortion. It's a state-related issue. What almost everybody voting for Republican agrees is second and third trimester abortion is wrong and it is murder. Would you advise that angle and to say, like, to try to pivot and say it used to be safe, legal, and rare was what Democrats said. Now party orthodoxy is if you want to have an abortion in the 9th month, you can. Americans overwhelmingly reject what the Democrat orthodoxy is, whereas there's lots of support for different Republican perspectives. Is that the right answer, or how should he handle it, because it is going to come up?
Well, and I think that's the right answer. I mean, he's kicked it over to the states. Obviously, that happened with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And also, and to your point, I mean, the Democrats are radical on this issue. Their positions are actually outside of the norm of Americans. I mean, even look at Tim Walz and what he did as governor of Minnesota there. I mean, he removed protections for babies that were born alive after botched abortions. I mean, it doesn't get sicker than that. And so, I agree that he should turn that around and then also, make the case again. Like, he really needs to stick on, as you mentioned, you've got the economy, you've got the border, and you've got wars across the world. He is the candidate that's going to bring peace and stability to the United States. He's the candidate that's going to bring prosperity and more money in your wallet. He's the candidate that's going to keep you safe, prevent terrorists from crossing the southern border, and also just the unfairness with some of these Democrats in some of these cities wanting to, give all this money to illegal immigrants, put them up, give them, certain subsidized housing for them, while Americans are maxing out their credit cards to put groceries on the table. So that's unfair for Americans. And we're seeing that's why, at least on the issue of immigration, I mean, look how much it's changed since when Donald Trump was president. You've got a majority of Americans that want mass deportations. I mean, you would have never believed that under Donald Trump. That's not where Americans were. So there are so many policy issues. I hope he goes in tomorrow night and really sticks to the issues and doesn't allow her. I mean, we know she's going to call him a felon. She's going to call him sexist, all these different things. And I just hope he doesn't allow himself to take the bait. But look, he's debating 3 people. You've got 2 moderators that are extremely liberal that push leftist propaganda, and then you've got Kamala Harris. So it's 3 against 1.
And let me also say this, because I think the abortion answer is important. I think Trump can say, I believe in exceptions for life of mother, rape, incest, same ones that Ronald Reagan believed in. I think it should be left to the state. And I believe, unlike Kamala Harris, there should be some limits to abortion. I would just like, and I would actually say this if I were Trump, and I'm curious how you think this would resonate, Lisa, because again, I do think the gender gap, what the data reflects is if Trump can get women to come and support him a bit, or Kamala can get men to come and support her a bit, that may well determine the outcome of this race. So I would actually say if I were Trump, and put it on the moderators too, Kamala Harris, do you support any limit on abortion at all? Do you oppose 9th month abortion? It's a simple question. I do. I do oppose 9th month abortion. Kamala, will you say that? And I would actually like him to put her a little bit on the defensive, because I don't think she would say, yes, you're right, we shouldn't have 9th month abortions.
Yeah, but then you're also setting her up to take a policy position that aligns with the rest of America. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'd have to go back, but I'd be looking up at her past statements on abortion and just trying to. My challenge for Donald Trump tomorrow night is we've seen someone with Kamala Harris who has no morality, no values, believes in nothing, willing to change her policy positions to try to win. I would not give her any wiggle room on anything. I would just nail her to every policy position she has said previously that is out of step with the rest of America, and we know it is. She was the most liberal United States senator to the left of Bernie Sanders. I mean, her policy positions are so outside the norm. That's why she's having to moderate herself now. And the real Kamala Harris is who she was when she was a United States senator, and she didn't have to worry about running in a general election where she had to moderate herself because she was in liberal California. So that is who she is. And so I don't know, personally, I see what you're saying. But I just, if I'm Donald Trump, I don't give her any room to wiggle out of previous policy positions. I'm just bringing up her record, nailing it every single time, and then saying, I'm the guy, I'm the person that you had more money in your pocket, the border was secure, you didn't have to worry about having to potentially send your son or daughter off to war. And, I'm the stability candidate, I'm the prosperity candidate, I'm the security candidate. And so I don't know, I see her strategy, but if I'm him, I just don't give her any room to wiggle out of her past policy positions.
Do you think Tim Walz has just turned into a total non-factor at this point, Lisa? Because it feels like for a moment it was, oh my gosh, Tim Walz, and I don't even think anyone talks about it at all right now.
Well, you guys, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, if she's wondering why she's doing so poorly with men, I mean, picking a guy who wants to put tampons in the boys' bathroom, I mean, that'll do it, right? Like, I think most men in the country believe that is crazy. She should be concerned about, I mean, look, we've already discussed the fact that she's gunning for him. She's going to try to do what she did to Mike Pence, what she did to Joe Biden, where she basically called him a racist and then signed up to be his VP. She's going to be vicious. But for her, I would be worried about coming across as too aggressive and unlikable, because we've seen up until this point with, the installation of her, the Democrat big donors and elites installing her as the Democrat nominee, people didn't like her. I mean, she's been one of the most least unpopular vice presidents in American history. She flamed out in 2020 before Iowa, and that's where she put all her stock heading into Iowa. So this isn't someone who's likable. And so I think that she should be concerned about going too far with that and then really turning off more men, but also women. And so I think that's a concern for her, and she runs the risk of that.
Lisa, did you see, Buck and I mentioned this, and we need to have some fun with it when we come back to close out the show.
Okay.
Did you see that the men at NPR had their testosterone levels tested, and all of them tested off, like on the bottom limit, like well below where you would be treated.
These guys have the testosterone of like a 200-year-old man. It's ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, these are like 40-year-old men and 30-something-year-old men. Their testosterone levels were off the charts low. And I saw it, and I just kind of nodded. Do you think there are any actually testosterone-laden men hardly in America at all that are voting for Kamala? And how perfect is that for NPR?
Well, it just makes so much sense, right? And I think wasn't even Dana Bash on CNN was basically saying that
there was a low T DNC that they were trying to appeal to beta males, basically.
Exactly, and and Tim Walz appeals to that, even though they previously told us to put him in a hunting hat and a plaid shirt. I don't know, it's confusing, but you know what I would love to do? I would love for them to do some sort of study and have leftist men testosterone and test it compared to Republican men, and I bet it would just be like astronomically different.
No, I think if you ran, by the way, I'm not even kidding. If you ran a serious study,
men in dresses, you guys, like, wait, what do we expect?
Lisa, there is absolutely. I mean, I would put a bet down on this right now. If they did a real statistically sound study of this, there is 100% a correlation, not a causation, but a correlation between for men being conservative and having a higher than average level of testosterone. Absolutely.
Here's the other question I would like to see, Lisa. I'd be curious what the women respond. Well, I was going to say, think about this. Women, I bet, if you tested women, I bet they would like the men who have high testosterone even when they're voting for Kamala. In other words, I don't even think these women who claim to be Democrats like the Democrat men around them. I'm curious what you would say about that, too.
Okay, so I wish I could remember like who conducted the interview, but it was on Instagram, and this guy was going around interviewing women at the DNC, at the Democrat National Convention, and he was like asking them who you'd rather date, and they're like, oh, I hate to say it, but probably a conservative man. Because the men, well, first of all, I think men have just gotten more soft in the country at large. But then you look at the left, and they're celebrating men in dresses, their toxic masculinity, all these different things, and so I think that they would rather date a Republican man than a leftist man, and I wish I could remember who did the interview because it was so funny. And the woman like hated herself after it. She was like, "Oh, I have to admit it," you know.
Well, I think this is a great
It was
topic
so
for
funny.
the next. This is a great topic for the next episode of The Truth with Lisa Boothe, a fantastic podcast on the Clay and Buck Network, hosted by Lisa Boothe. Lisa, great to have you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Okay, have a great day.
You know, there's a fair number of informed people that are speculating we could see a whole bunch of financial problems, including another round of inflation if the Biden administration is able to green light dollars intended for infrastructure projects here. When our federal government turns on the money printing presses, putting more money we don't have to spend into the economy, inflation is so often what you get. That just further diminishes the value of the dollars that you're trying to put away and save. But you know what? Gold has only increased in value. Having a portion of your savings in gold is a good thing, while spending the power of your saved dollars has only gone, while the spending power rather of your saved dollars has only gone down. The value of the gold that you may own has only gone up over time. You can rely on Birch Gold Group to handle your gold and silver purchases. Birch Gold makes it understandable and easier than ever to purchase physical gold that you can hold on to in your home. Just as easy to purchase gold and put it into your 401k or tax-sheltered IRA. More Americans than ever now own gold or silver. And go check it out from our friends at the Birch Gold Group, and you'll become one of them. Text my name, Buck, to 989898 and receive a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, all you have to do is text Buck to 989898, A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold like we do. Text Buck to 989898 today.